My name is Dolores Manning. I'm 75 years old. I raised 3 daughters, worked 2 jobs most of my life, and I know how to stretch a dollar further than most folks know how to stretch a story. I moved in with my oldest daughter, Megan, 2 years ago after my arthritis got worse, and the stairs in my old house became too much. I sold my little home, put the money in a savings account for emergencies, and let Megan talk me into moving into her big house in the suburbs. She said, "It'll be easier for you, Mom. You won't be alone, and the girls will love having you here." It sounded sweet, safe, loving. It wasn't. The first few months were fine. Megan made space for me in the guest room. I cooked dinner most nights and helped watch her 2 kids when she and her husband Russell worked late. I paid a little toward groceries, paid for my own prescriptions, and kept my mouth shut whenever Megan made a big purchase, like that $900 espresso machine she never used. But slowly, something changed. Little things first. She'd stop asking if I wanted to come to the kids' soccer games. Then she'd roll her eyes when I needed help getting in and out of the car. And then she started talking about money. Not to me, about me. One day I heard her on the phone with her sister Tina, in the kitchen. "She doesn't even pay rent," Megan whispered. "I mean, I love Mom, but we're not a nursing home. It's not like she works. I can't keep carrying this dead weight forever." Dead weight. That phrase sat in my stomach like spoiled milk. I stood in the hallway, one hand gripping the wall for balance, the other holding a fresh bag of groceries I had bought for her family. And all I could think was, "I gave you everything." I didn't say anything right away. I smiled at dinner, cleaned the dishes, and kissed my grandkids goodnight. But something in me had cracked. The next week I started keeping notes. Not out of revenge, not yet, but because I realized I'd made a terrible mistake. I had moved into someone else's life, and they had decided I no longer had value. So I wrote everything down. What I bought, what I paid, how many times I babysat. Every single time she said, "Can you just," like I didn't already have a body that ached. Before I even got out of bed, I watched Megan buy designer handbags and salon treatments, while sighing loudly whenever I asked for help picking up my medication. Russell started treating me like a piece of furniture, something always in the way. One afternoon, I was in the living room folding their laundry when Megan walked in, waving an electric bill. "This is $400. You need to be more mindful, Mom. You're home all day. Maybe turn off the lights once in a while." I wanted to say, "Those lights are on because your kids leave them on. The ones I babysit for free, the ones I feed lunch and help with homework while you're out at your Pilates class." But I didn't say anything. I just nodded and added it to my notebook. The tipping point came one rainy Thursday. I was making soup, my mother's chicken and rice recipe, the one Megan always said made her feel like a kid again. Russell came in and wrinkled his nose. "Smells like retirement home in here," he said. Megan laughed. Then she said it, loud enough for me to hear from the stove. "We should have just helped her find a little apartment. Or something." I didn't realize having her here would mean I'd have a 3rd child to take care of. I didn't drop the spoon. I didn't scream. I just stirred. Slowly. And I thought, "You don't want to carry dead weight. Then I'll remove it." That night, I went online using my little tablet. I looked up senior living apartments. Not the kind with nurses and bingo halls, but small, clean places where old folks like me live quietly and peacefully. I found one not far from my church. It was small, just 1 bedroom, but it had a kitchenette, and it allowed cats. I had always wanted another cat. The rent wasn't cheap, but it wasn't out of reach either, especially not for someone who still had a secret savings account from selling her house, the one I never told Megan about. The one she assumed had gone toward helping out. I scheduled a tour for the following week. Told Megan I had a doctor's appointment. She didn't even ask what for, she just nodded and said, "Try not to take too long. I need you to pick up the kids by 3. At the apartment complex, the manager, a kind woman named Susan, showed me around. She didn't talk to me like I was invisible. She asked about my hobbies, my preferences, my comfort. I sat down on the bed of the model unit, looked out the small window and breathed. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. It could be mine. No eye rolls, no whispered insults, no one calling me dead weight. I signed the lease that afternoon, and I didn't tell a soul. Back at Megan's house, I began packing slowly, one drawer at a time, tucking things into bags I stored in the back of the closet. The plan was simple. I would leave on a Thursday morning when everyone was out. I would leave a letter. I would lock the guest room behind me. And most importantly, I wouldn't say goodbye, because they hadn't either. Not really, but the universe has a funny sense of timing. The day before I was set to leave, Megan barged into my room. "Mom," she said, waving another envelope. "You've got a letter from the bank." She dropped it on my bed like it was covered in germs. I opened it after she left. It was a balance statement from my emergency account. Somehow the bank had sent it here, and I had forgotten to go paperless. The balance was high, very high. High enough to pay rent on that new apartment for 5 years without worry. I looked at the door, half expecting Megan to return, but she didn't, not yet. And that's when the plan changed. I spent the rest of that afternoon pacing in my room. The letter from the bank sits on my dresser like a loaded gun. One Megan had just handed to me without knowing what it was. The account balance is clearly printed at the top, $87.11. The account I never told her about. The account from the sale of my house. The account she assumed didn't exist. I should have shredded it, but I didn't. I just stared at it and thought, so this is what changes everything. And I was right. That night after dinner, Megan knocks on my door. "Hey Mom, everything okay?" I look up from my book slowly. "Fine." She steps into the room, arms crossed over her expensive gym sweatshirt. "Did you get something from the bank today?" I pause. She noticed. So much for pretending she didn't read the envelope. "I did," I say calmly. Megan's smile is tight, polite. "Anything I should be worried about?" I meet her eyes. "No, it was just a statement." She nods and I see the gears turning behind her eyes. Megan's not dumb. She's calculating. And now she knows I'm not as broke as she thought. By morning, the temperature in the house has changed. Not outside, but inside the walls. Megan's suddenly sweet. Fake sweet. "Do you want to come to brunch with us on Sunday?" she asks. "I'll pay. I was thinking of getting your favorite bread from the bakery. The kids want to make you a card." I smile politely. I say thank you. I don't say yes or no. She's not being kind because she loves me. She's being kind because she knows I have something she wants. And then it happens. A few days later, I come home from my walk, and Megan's sitting at the dining table with her laptop open. She looks up and smiles like she's just stumbled on something funny. "Hey Mom," she says casually. "Out of curiosity, how much was your house worth when you sold it?" I freeze. "Oh, no reason. Just wondering how you managed all your money. I mean, we could help you invest it, if you need." My fingers tighten around the cane. "I'm fine," I say. "Always have been." She shrugs. "It's just, we're all family, right? It's silly to keep secrets. Family doesn't call you dead weight, I think. But I don't say it. I just walk past her and close my door. But now I know. She's seen the number, and she wants in." That night, I start packing for real. Not slowly, not carefully, but deliberately. I move my things from drawers to boxes. I set out my best sweater. I call the moving company and ask them to come next Thursday. I don't tell Megan. I don't tell anyone, except for the apartment manager, Susan, who calls to confirm I'll be arriving. I feel like I'm carrying a beautiful secret, one made of silence, strength, and escape. 2 nights later, Megan crosses a line. I'm sitting in the kitchen folding the kids' laundry, when she drops a brochure in front of me. "It's for a local retirement home." "I was just thinking," she says too casually. "Maybe this would be a better setup for you. They do group dinner, bingo nights, lots of older folks." She taps the picture of smiling gray-haired people playing cards. "You could make friends, Mom." I stare at the brochure. This is how they do it. They wear you down with kindness, then hand you a one-way ticket to somewhere they won't have to see you every day. I'm not interested. I say quietly. Megan shrugs. Okay, it's just a suggestion. I go to my room that night and cry quietly into a towel. Not because I'm hurt, because I'm furious, because I know now. I can't tell her I'm leaving, not until I'm already gone. The next morning, Russell leaves a stack of mail on the kitchen table. I spot another envelope with my name on it. It's from the utility company. I open it, and I see something that makes my blood boil. The account is no longer in Megan or Russell's name. It's in mine. They transferred the bills to me. Without asking. Without warning. Megan walks in, sipping her green juice, and acts like she doesn't notice. Morning, Mom. I don't respond. Because I'm too busy adding up how many times they've decided I don't matter, until my money becomes useful. I call Susan at the apartment building. Can I move in early? I ask. There's a pause. We actually had a cancellation. The unit's available now. My hand shakes a little. I'll be there in 3 days. On Wednesday morning, I pack the last box. I write a letter. I tape the envelope to the refrigerator. And I leave the house keys on the kitchen counter, next to the untouched espresso machine. The movers arrive. They load everything quickly and quietly. By the time Megan gets home from her yoga class, the guest room is empty. I'm gone. In the letter, I don't yell. I don't accuse. I just write. You said I was a burden. You called me dead weight. You handed me a brochure like you were handing off a bag of groceries. I raised you. I supported you. And I loved you with everything I had. But now I'm taking back the little I kept for myself. I hope you find peace. But from now on, you'll find it without me. As I sit in my new apartment that evening, with a warm cup of tea and my new cat purring on the windowsill, I finally feel the kind of peace that doesn't require permission. They thought I had nowhere to go. They thought I had no options. They thought I was powerless, but I wasn't. I just stopped talking and started planning. It's quiet in my new apartment, not the kind of silence that makes your chest tight. The kind I had in Megan's house, where people walked past me like I was furniture. No, this silence is clean, free. I sit at my small table by the window, with a cup of tea and my notebook open. The same notebook I used to track how many times I cooked, how many bills I paid, how many times Megan said, "It's not that big of a deal, Mom." Now I use it for better things. Grocery lists, poetry, little goals. I write at the top of the page, "You are not a bird. You are a woman who survived." On the first morning, I open the windows. The sunlight pours into the little kitchen like it's been waiting years to find me. I unpack my favorite mug, the one with the chipped handle and the pink roses. I make eggs the way I like them. Runny yolks, and lots of pepper. And for the first time in months, I eat without feeling guilty for using too many eggs or making a mess in the kitchen. The apartment isn't fancy, the cabinets are old, and the carpet is a little rough, but it's mine, and every inch of it feels like a room where I can finally exhale. I bring in my boxes one at a time and decorate slowly. My crocheted blankets, the framed photo of my late husband and me on our honeymoon, the small painting I made of my mother's garden. There's a knock on the door around noon. It's Susan, the apartment manager. She's holding a basket of muffins. "We give these to all our new residents." She smiles. "Welcome home." I nearly cry, because nobody's said that to me in years. That evening, I sit on my small balcony. There's a quiet hum in the air. Neighbors chatting on porches, kids riding bikes, someone playing jazz from a second-story window. And then, my phone buzzes. It's a message from Megan. "Where did you—" "Mom, this isn't funny. I can't believe you just left like that. You didn't even say goodbye to the kids. No apology. No regret. Just shock. Just entitlement." I don't reply. An hour later, my phone rings again. This time, it's Russell. I let it go to voicemail. His voice is gruff. "Look, Dolores, I don't know what kind of stunt this is, but we're in trouble now. All the bills are still in your name. Megan's freaking out. You need to come back and fix this. I laugh out loud. I don't need to fix a thing. What they don't know is I already removed my name from every account before I left. I called the utility companies. I had my name taken off the electricity, water, internet. I closed the grocery store membership card, and I even canceled the subscription for their streaming services that I had been paying for with my own card. If they want to watch TV, they'll have to figure it out themselves. I may be 75, but I know how to use a phone, and I know how to shut things off. 3 days pass, then a week. I get another message from Megan. You embarrassed us. The kids keep asking what happened. I had to lie and say you went on vacation. That's what you want, to look selfish. That word selfish hits me like a dart, and then I remember all the nights I stayed up making school lunches, all the weekends I canceled plans to babysit, all the dinners I cooked while Megan and Russell sat on the couch scrolling through their phones. Selfish. I gave until I was empty, and now that I'm finally filling my own cup, it's selfish. No, honey, it's survival. I don't respond. Instead, I go to the community garden behind the apartment complex. I plant a few flowers in the small bed they've given me. Marigolds, petunias, and a little lavender. The dirt feels good in my hands. Real, solid. A neighbor named Joan stops by. She's in her 60s, wears a floppy hat, and brings me a pair of gloves. We're all healing from something, she says kindly. Might as well let things grow. I smile, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I belong. Back at the apartment, I flip through an old scrapbook. Pictures of the girls when they were little. Megan with her missing front tooth. Tina, in her prom dress. My youngest, Lila, on my hip at the county fair. I loved them so hard I forgot to love myself. But not anymore. I tape a note on my bathroom mirror that reads, "You are not invisible," and I mean it. One evening, the apartment phone rings. It's Susan again. There's someone downstairs asking for you, she says gently. A woman and 2 kids. I close my eyes. Megan. I walk down slowly. She's standing there in the lobby, her arms folded. The kids are holding juice boxes, confused. Mom, Megan says sharply, you can't just vanish like that. What were you thinking? I look at her. I was thinking I deserved peace, I say. And this is it. She blinks. We were just trying to help. We never asked you for anything. You called me dead weight, I say quietly. Her mouth shuts. The kids look up at her. Mom? One of them whispers. I kneel down and hug them both. I love you more than anything, I whisper. But Grandma needed her own space. Just like you need yours. They nod slowly. Megan's eyes flicker. So that's it? You're just going to stay here? I stand up. Yes, I am. And then I say something I never thought I'd say to my daughter. You can visit if you call first. They leave. And I don't cry. I breathe. Because for the first time in years, I've chosen myself. Not as a mother. Not as a babysitter. Not as a placeholder. But as a person. I sit on my balcony that night and watch the stars come out one by one. I sip my tea. I listen to the wind, and I whisper to myself, you're not dead weight. You're a whole woman. Still alive. Still strong. Still here. The next morning I wake up to sunshine pouring in through the blind. The small apartment smells like fresh lavender. I left a little bundle on the windowsill to dry. I get out of bed slowly. Not because I'm weak, but because I finally have the time to move at my own pace. I don't have to rush to make breakfast for someone who doesn't say thank you. I don't have to wait in the hallway until the bathroom is free. This little apartment is mine. Every corner of it says, you belong here. I sip my tea in silence, then glance at the phone. No new messages. It's been 3 days since Megan showed up at the lobby with the kid. She hasn't called since, not even to ask how I'm doing. But I've had other visitors. Joan from the community garden brought me a basket of cherry tomatoes and zucchini. Susan, the apartment manager, helped me find a book club downstairs. And just last night, a man in 3B Herald invited me to a bingo night. I smiled and told him I'd think about it. Later that day, I walked to the mailbox and find a letter addressed to me. Handwritten, no return address. I open it on the bench outside. It's from Tina, my second daughter, the one who moved to Oregon 5 years ago, the one Megan always called dramatic for leaving. It reads, "Dear Mom, Megan told me you moved out. She said you left without warning, but I know you. You don't just walk away. For no reason. I don't know everything, but I believe you, and I want you to know. I support you. If you're happy, I'm happy. Love always, Tina." Tears blur the words on the page. I press the letter to my chest. One child saw me. One child listened. And that's enough. Meanwhile, Megan and Russell are learning what it means to carry the weight. I may not be there, but I hear things. Joan tells me the landlord from Megan's neighborhood called looking for me. They hadn't updated the billing on the electric account. Susan says someone from a billing agency came by asking questions. My name was still listed as the co-signer on their furniture payment. I'd already removed it a month ago, before I ever packed my bags. Now Megan and Russell are responsible for it all. No more hiding behind Mom will cover it. I spend my days in quiet peace, morning walks, afternoon crossword puzzles, evening garden tending. Sometimes I sit on the balcony with a knitting project and wave to people passing by. One afternoon, I hear children's laughter from below. 2 little boys are playing catch with their grandfather on the sidewalk. The older one misses the ball, and it rolls toward my building. I pick it up and toss it gently back. The grandfather waves. "Thank you, ma'am." I smile and nod. It hits me then. This is the life I used to think was gone. But it's not. It's just beginning. One evening, I decide to go to the bingo night. I dress up a little. Just a soft lavender cardigan and a floral scarf. Nothing fancy. Harold smiles wide when he sees me walk in. "Glad you came." I sit at a table with him, Susan, and 2 others. We play, we laugh. I don't win anything, but I win something better. Belonging. No one at that table knows how I was treated. No one here calls me dead weight. No one rolls their eyes when I speak. I am a person here, not a prop. Back at the apartment, I get a surprise knock. It's Lila, my youngest. She's holding a paper bag and wearing a sheepish smile. "I brought apple pie," she says. "Store-bought, but still." I step aside and let her in. She looks around. "It's cozy here," she says. I nod. "It's mine." She sits at the small table and places the pie down. We each take a slice. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asks gently. "That you were hurting." I sigh. "Because I thought you already knew." She blinks. "I knew Megan was difficult, but I didn't know it was that bad." I look at her. "She called me dead weight, Lila." Lila puts her fork down. Her eyes fill. "I'm so sorry, Mom." That's the first real apology I've heard in years. We talk for hours. About the past, about Dad, about the way things shifted after he passed, and how none of us really knew how to hold each other anymore. Lila tells me she's been in therapy. She's learning how to set boundaries. "Maybe you're the one who showed me how," she says softly. The next morning, I receive a letter in the mail, legal letterhead. I open it and smile. It's confirmation from the attorney I hired a month ago. As requested, all financial ties and legal responsibilities connected to Megan and Russell Thompson have been dissolved. You are no longer listed on any shared accounts or documentation. Your legal independence is now fully restored. I fold the paper and slip it into a drawer marked important. I sit at the window, tea in hand, and I whisper to myself, "Let them carry it now. I'm done." 1 week later, Megan calls. I let it ring. Then it rings again. I finally answer. She sounds frazzled. "Mom, I need to talk to you. Things are falling apart. The water bill was overdue, And Russell said it was your name on it. I told him you took it off, but they said I did. I interrupt calmly. But it's still your. No, Megan. It's not. I have proof. The bills are yours now. She's quiet for a second. I didn't mean it, she blurts. What I said. I was just frustrated. I know, I say, but frustration doesn't give you permission to hurt people. I didn't mean to. You didn't stop either. Another long pause. I miss the kids. I say gently. They miss you too. She says, voice small. You can bring them. But I won't stay in your house again. And I won't be used. Okay, she whispers. I understand. I don't know if she really does. But at least she heard it. That's a start. Later that night, I light a small candle and sit by the window. The photo of my late husband sits nearby. I smile and say out loud, I did it, Frank. I finally stopped letting them walk over me. There's no reply, just the wind rustling the curtains. But I feel him there, not just in the photo, in the peace, in the pride, in the freedom I've reclaimed. The doorbell rings just after noon. I glance through the peephole. It's Megan, and she's alone. No Russell, no kids, just her arms crossed, lips tight, eyes tired. I hesitate, but then I open the door. Hi, she says, almost too quiet to hear. Hi, I say back, keeping my voice even. She doesn't ask to come in, just stands there, like she's unsure what to do next. I was in the neighborhood, she says. Megan, you live 35 minutes away. Her face twists, like she's caught in a lie she hadn't thought through. I wanted to talk. I open the door a little wider. Then talk. She walks in slowly, looking around like she's in a stranger's home. I thought you'd be miserable, she finally says. I tilt my head. Why? She shrugs. Because you always said you wanted to be close to family. No, I correct her. I said I wanted to feel like family. That's not the same. She swallows hard. The silence stretches. I offer her tea. Not because I owe her anything, but because I'm kind, even to people who forgot how to be kind to me. We sit at the little round table, just like I used to in her kitchen, except this time, I'm not serving leftovers while she scrolls through her phone. This time, we're face to face. I've been thinking, she says, about everything. About what I said. What I did. I wait. I shouldn't have said what I said, she murmurs. Calling you that. It wasn't right. You called me dead weight, I say. Not letting her soften the truth, she flinches. I was stressed. I was too, but I didn't call anyone names. Her eyes fill. She blinks fast. I didn't mean it. You did, I say gently. You meant it in the moment, because in that moment, that's how little you saw me. She looks down. I sip my tea. Do you know, I say, how many times I paid the grocery bill without saying a word? Or how many times I cleaned up your messes, dried your kids' tears, canceled my plans to help you? She doesn't answer. I was never dead weight, Megan. I was your support beam, and you took me for granted. Tears roll down her cheeks now. I don't know how to fix this, she whispers. I look at her, really look at her. The daughter I raised, the woman who got lost somewhere between motherhood and ambition. You can't fix it overnight, I say, but you can start by carrying your own weight. She wipes her eyes and nods slowly. I've been trying, but it's been hard. The bills, the kids, Russell, everything's falling apart. I say nothing. I'm not here to rescue her anymore. She studies me for a moment. How are you doing this? Being alone? I smile. Because I'm not alone. I have myself, and that's more than I had in your house. After she leaves, I sit for a long time. I'm not angry anymore, but I'm not rushing to forgive her either. Forgiveness, I've learned, is not a gift you toss out like spare change. It's something you protect until it's earned. I pick up my journal and write one sentence in bold letters. My worth is not up for debate. A week later, I get a letter in the mail. It's from the city's senior center. They saw my small art display at the community garden and want to feature me at their monthly artist showcase. I laugh. Me? At 75? Being featured? I write back and say yes. The next week, I visit the senior center. I bring a few watercolor paintings, flowers, old barns, a lighthouse. People walk by and compliment them. Some even ask if they're for sale. I just paint for peace, I tell them. But one man, a local reporter, asks if he can interview me for the town paper. I think people should hear your story, he says. It's inspiring. I nod. Okay, but I get to keep the headline. What should it be? He asks. I smile. Not dead weight. Back home, I call Tina and Lila to tell them the news. They're thrilled. Megan sends a text. I saw the article. I'm proud of you, Mom. I read the message, then put the phone down. She can be proud. That's fine, but I'm proud too. And for once, I don't need anyone else to say it. I walk to the community garden that evening. Joan is there, tending to her tomatoes. I saw your picture in the paper, she beams. You're famous now, I chuckle. Not famous. Just free. She nods slowly. That's even better. We plant a few bulbs together, early daffodils. They won't bloom until spring. But that's the thing about flowers. They come back. Stronger, brighter, bolder. Just like I did. A few days later, Susan knocks on my door with an envelope in her hand. Someone dropped this off for you, she says. Inside is a card. It's from Megan. No long explanation. Just a note. Mom, I'm sorry. I took you for granted. You didn't deserve that. I'm working on myself. I love you. I sit with the card for a while. Then I place it in my drawer. Right next to Tina's letter. Both women, different paths. But maybe, just maybe, healing is possible. That night, I light a candle and look at the photo of my late husband. I wish you could see me now, I whisper. Not because I've changed, but because I finally remembered who I've always been. Outside, the wind carries the scent of the garden through the open window. I breathe in deeply and smile. It's early morning when I walk through the backyard gate and into the community garden again. There's dew on the grass, and the sun isn't up all the way yet, but I like it that way. The quiet, the calm, the promise of something new. A little bird hops along the fence. I nod at it like an old friend. This place saved me. Not the dirt, not the tomatoes or the squash, or the basil growing crooked in its little wooden box. It was the doing, the building, the slow, quiet motion of reclaiming something. People think healing is loud, that it's dramatic, but sometimes healing sounds like soft digging and rustling leaves. Susan greets me at the garden shed. She's brought coffee. You're up early again, she says. I smile. Can't sleep in when your carrots are growing. We both laugh. She pulls out 2 mugs, and we sit on a bench made from reclaimed wood. Someone left by the compost bin. We talk about everything. And nothing. The frost coming soon. Her daughter moving in with a man named Curtis. My lettuce not coming in right. Then she leans forward and says gently, Have you heard from your daughter? I nod. She sent a letter. And she said sorry. Susan looks at me. Did you believe her? I stare at the steam curling from my mug. I believed she meant it. In the moment. That's a start, Susan says. Later that week, I get a knock on my door. It's Russell. Not Megan. He's holding a box and looking nervous. I step outside and close the door behind me. Hi. Can we talk? He says. I fold my arms. You're here. So go ahead. He clears his throat. I brought your sewing machine and the quilts. Megan thought maybe you'd want them back. I stare at the box, not because I need what's in it, but because they noticed. I also wanted to apologize, he adds, voice tight, for not saying anything when we said what we said. You just stood there. I remind him. I know, that's why I'm here. I was wrong. I nod. You were. He sets the box down carefully and straightens up. Megan's been going to therapy, he says. It's helping. She's changing. I lift an eyebrow. Is she changing, or is she just realizing I won't clean up after her anymore? He doesn't answer, because he doesn't know. He reaches into his pocket and hands me another envelope. It's from her. She said it's different than the first. He walks away before I open it. Inside is a folded note and a photograph. The photo is old. It's me holding baby Emily. The first time I met my granddaughter, back when Megan still smiled when she looked at me. The note says, I didn't understand what I had until I lost the sound of you humming in my kitchen. I didn't know what support meant until I had to carry my own weight. Thank you for everything you did. And I'm sorry for making you feel less than. You never were. You were the strongest person in the room. Always. I sit with that for a long time. But I still don't go visit her. I don't jump in the car and rush to make things better. Because this time, I'm letting her carry the weight of her own choices. That's the only way they learn. At the senior art showcase, I wear a soft gray dress and a scarf with blue wildflowers. The scarf belonged to my mother, and I haven't worn it in years. Tina and Lila arrive early. They bring flowers, and Tina insists on taking 100 photos of me in front of my little painting table. This one's going on the fridge, she says. Lila adds. And Instagram. I laugh, you'll scare people off. They hug me tight. You deserve all this attention, Tina says. You're not just the glue, you're the whole structure. That hits me in the chest in a good way. At the end of the event, a woman approaches me. Older. Hair pinned back, lipstick too bright for the afternoon. She looks nervous. You don't remember me, she says, but you used to babysit my son Jason. 30 years ago. I blink, then I smile. Jason used to hide Cheerios in his socks, she continues. I always remembered how kind you were. Even when you had nothing, you gave everything. She reaches out and squeezes my hand. Don't let anyone call you deadweight again, ever. Back home, I place her thank you card beside Megan's letter. One from the past, one from the present. Both reminders. I have always given love freely. But now I give it carefully, to those who earn it, to those who hold it with both hands and don't call it a burden. A few days later, Megan sends a message. Can we come visit, just for a few hours? We won't stay long. Emily misses you. I stare at the message. Then I walk outside into the fall air and let the wind tell me what to do. I text back, 1 hour. No expectations, no apologies, just be kind. She replies with a heart emoji. It's not much, but it's something. They come on Sunday. Emily runs to me like nothing ever happened. She throws her arms around me and says, Grandma, I drew you something. It's a picture of me watering flowers with a big smiling sun above my head. I want to cry, but I don't. Instead, I tape it to my fridge. Megan sits quietly at the table, sipping tea. She watches me and doesn't say much. And honestly, That's fine. Not every wound needs words to heal. Sometimes presence is enough, as long as it's honest, as long as it stays gentle. When they leave, Megan hugs me, hesitant but real. I'm learning, she says quietly. Good, I whisper back. Keep learning. That night, I lock my door, light a candle, and look at all the small things I've built since leaving her house. A garden, a gallery spot, a quiet, powerful piece. I'm not what they said I was. I never was. And now the whole town knows it too. The following week, the mail brings something unexpected. Not a letter, not a card. It's a statement, a final statement from the joint account Megan once had me connected to back when I was living in her house, buying groceries, covering electric bills, and contributing quietly because that's just what moms do. Only this time, it's in her name alone. And there's a big red negative balance. I chuckle softly, not out of spite, just the strange comedy of it. The same daughter who once called me dead weight is now drowning in the weight of her own choices. I don't reach out to her about it. I don't offer advice or money or help. That's part of growing, isn't it? Sitting in the consequences you created. I spend the morning in my kitchen, sipping tea, watching birds gather on the telephone line. I make myself a proper breakfast: toast with raspberry jam, scrambled eggs, and a few slices of avocado. This is peace. This is what freedom tastes like. Not rich, not fancy, but mine. Susan calls and asks if I'd like to help plan the fall craft fair. We want to do something for the folks who don't have family visiting over the holidays, she says. A little warmth. A little gathering. I say yes before she finishes her sentence, because I know that kind of loneliness. And I know what it feels like to be invited. We sit at the church basement table later that week, surrounded by yarn, glue sticks, and cinnamon candles. We should do a paper lantern table, I suggest. Let people write something they want to let go of, and light it inside. Susan's eyes light up. That's beautiful. Let's call it lightening the load. Back at home, I find an envelope slid under my door. It's handwritten, addressed simply to Mom. No postage, no return name. Inside is a folded piece of paper with a single line. How did you survive all those years and still stay kind? I sit down slowly, reading it again. There's no name, but I know it's from Megan. Only she would ask something like that. I don't answer the note. Instead, I start writing in my journal. Not for her, for me. In it I write things like, you don't owe anyone your silence. Being the bigger person doesn't mean being the doormat. Dead weight doesn't grow gardens. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And lastly, my strength is not up for debate. I close the journal and place it back in my drawer with a calm heart. At the community craft fair, people show up with baskets, scarves, cookies, and stories. Lots of story. One man in his 70s tells me his daughter hasn't called in 6 months. I used to send her money every other week, he says. Now I send silence. It's cheaper. We laugh. But it's the heavy kind. Another woman shows me the lantern she made. It says, I release the version of myself who thought love had to hurt. I want to hug her. But I just nod and whisper, me too. Susan brings hot cider over and leans in close. Have you thought about seeing Megan again? Not just the quick visit. A real conversation. I sigh. I think about it. But I also think about how long it took me to find this peace. Maybe it doesn't have to be either or, she says. Maybe you can bring your peace with you. I think about that. But I don't answer. A few days later I get a call. It's Russell. He sounds panicked. Emily's in the hospital, he says. Just a bad flu, but she's dehydrated. Megan's there, but she's asking for you. I feel my knees go soft. Not because I'm scared, but because I'm being asked. Not demanded. Not used. Asked. I'll be there, I say. The hospital room is small, pale green walls. Machines humming softly. Emily lies curled on the bed, her cheeks flushed. Megan sits in the chair beside her, shoulders tense. Eyes red. When she sees me, she stands up quickly, then freezes like she doesn't know if she's allowed to move. I walk to the bed, brush Emily's damp hair back from her forehead. "Hi there, sugar," I whisper. "You scared me." She opens one eye, smiles weakly. "Grandma," Megan watches, hands twisting in her lap. "I'm glad you came," she says quietly. I nod. "I didn't come for you," I say. "I came for her." But after a while, we sit together. Megan offers me tea from the hospital's vending machine. I accept. We sit by Emily's bed in the quiet. Just two mothers, both tired, both scared. "She kept asking where you were," Megan says. And I didn't know how to explain. "You don't have to," I reply. "Some things explain themselves." She wipes her eyes. "I've been trying, Mom. I swear. I'm not good at it yet. But I'm trying." I believe her. Not because she says it perfectly, but because she's here. She's staying, not running, not blaming, just sitting in it. When Emily gets better and they're discharged, I walk them to the car. Megan turns before getting in. "Would it be okay if we saw each other more?" "Only if it's not out of guilt," I say. "Only if you want to see me, not the version of me you think is useful." She nods. "I want to see you." That's the first time in a long time she's said it like that. I believe her. But still I tell her this. "I'll come by next month. Once, let's take it one cup of tea at a time." She smiles. "I'll have the kettle ready." That night, I water my plants and light a candle by the kitchen window. I pour myself a cup of tea and write a new line in my journal. The bills were never mine to carry alone. 1 month passes quietly. No drama, no shouting, just the soft turning of pages in my journal. And the occasional ping of my phone when Susan sends a recipe or someone from the craft group asks about supplies. I keep my word. On a Saturday morning, I pull on my soft cardigan, the one with the stitched rose near the collar, and tuck a box of tea into my tote bag. Then I head to Megan's house. When I pull into the driveway, I notice something different. The yard is unkempt, not messy but no longer manicured within an inch of its life. No symmetrical flower beds or overly trimmed hedges. A few daisies grow wild by the porch. It looks lived in, real. I knock gently, and it's Emily who answers the door. "Grandma," she squeals, throwing her arms around my waist. I hug her tight, then step inside. The house smells like cinnamon. There are drawings on the fridge, one with a crooked little heart and the words "Nana's the best." Megan is in the kitchen, wearing a faded t-shirt and jeans. She turns, startled, then smiles. A real smile, not the tight-lipped one I remember. "Tea?" she asks. "I brought some," I say, lifting the box from my tote. We sit across from each other at the table, and for a moment we don't speak. Just sip, letting the quiet hold us. Then Megan breaks the silence. "I went over my finances last week," she says. I nod slowly, waiting. "I didn't realize how much you covered." Not just bills, groceries, school supplies, gas. I took it all for granted. She takes a breath. I'm not asking for money. I just want to say I'm sorry, not for kicking you out. For treating you like you were nothing but an expense. My throat tightens. I don't cry. But I feel something shift inside me. I wasn't expecting that, I say. I wasn't either, she admits. But I had to face the truth. You weren't dead weight, you were the foundation. I just didn't see it. Later, Emily pulls me to her room. She shows me a drawing, stick figures holding hands, one labeled Mom, one me, and one with gray curls and a big smile labeled Grandma. I don't like when you're gone. Can you come back? I sit beside her on the floor. I'll always be around, I say. But not in the Thay way. I have my own little home now. But I want you in this home. I smile gently. Sometimes love means having your own space, sweetheart. But we'll still have tea parties. I promise. Before I leave, Megan walks me to the door. She hesitates, then says, I put your name back on the emergency contact form. I look at her. Eyebrows raised. Because you're the one I trust when it really counts, she said. And I changed the family group chat name too. It used to say the Williams. Now it says us. I chuckle. That's progress. We stand there for a moment, neither quite knowing what else to say. Then she hugs me, not out of pity, not out of guilt, just love. And I let her. Back at my cottage, I light my favorite candle, the one that smells like cedar and orange peel. I pull out my journal and write one last entry under the title, What I Learned from Being Dead Weight. If they think you're a burden, show them the cost of losing you. Leaving doesn't mean abandoning. Sometimes it means returning whole. Bills aren't just dollars. They're reminders of who carried what. There's no shame in stepping back when you've been stepped on. And finally, dead weight doesn't cry. It learns to walk lighter. Because she left the heaviness behind. The next week, Susan and I host the lantern event from the fall fair again. We set up folding tables, scatter jars of LED candles, and place pens beside folded paper slips. People write messages, some funny, some angry, some heartbreaking. I write one too. Not to send away something bad, but to let go of something I've carried far too long. My message? I forgive you, but I remember everything. I fold it, light it, and place it in the lantern. As the lanterns glow, floating down the river one by one, Susan leans toward me. You feel lighter? She asks. Yes, I say, because for once, I'm not carrying anyone else's weight, and I mean it. The final scene is just me, back at my home. I water my plants. Hang up a small wooden sign above the kitchen sink. It says, Peace leaves here. Not welcome, not home sweet home, just peace. Because that's what I fought for, what I paid for, what I earned, not with money. Not with bitterness, but with truth, with silence, and with walking away from anyone who saw me as a cost, when I was always the investment.